We're going to go live right now to Mississauga, where Peel Police are announcing details of a human trafficking operation dubbed Project Pacific. Let's listen in.
We're using the vulnerabilities of the victims to coerce and manipulate them into working and living within these illegal body houses. Investigators determined that there were several members of this criminal network benefiting financially from the victimization and the exploitation of these victims in the sex trade. All 13 victims in this investigation are of Chinese descent and have varying immigration status. One thing that all these victims had in common was that they came to Canada for a better life. However, 12 of these victims were recruited domestically. This investigation has led to the arrests and charges on the following individuals. The young Nagay, a 59-year-old female from Milton, has been charged with exercise control, direction, or influence, derive material benefit from sexual service ×3, communicate for the purpose for consideration for sexual service, trafficking a controlled substance, cocaine ×4, and possession for the purpose of trafficking cocaine ×2. Yu Hobley Land, a 63-year-old female from Mississauga, has been charged with exercise control, direction, or influence, derive material benefit from sexual service ×3, possession of a controlled substance, cocaine. Yan Yan Zhang, a 39-year-old female from Markham, has been charged with communicate for the purpose for consideration for sexual service ×6. Kwai Lin So, a 55-year-old female from Mississauga, has been charged with communicate for the purpose for consideration for sexual service and possession for the purpose of trafficking cocaine. Also charged, but not pictured here, is Iman Hanrahan, a 71-year-old male from Mississauga. He has been charged with possession for the purpose of trafficking cocaine. Investigators anticipate additional charges to be laid against members of this criminal network for their financial gain and exploitation of the victims identified. And as we continue to gather and review the abundance of evidence seized throughout this investigation, I would like to thank our law enforcement partners for their assistance in Project Pacific, like Peel Regional Police. All of the agencies that assisted understand the significant impact that human trafficking has within our communities. Using a victim-focused approach, investigators worked effectively with our community partners to ensure the appropriate supports and services were provided throughout this investigation to our victims. As we believe there are additional victims and witnesses, we ask them to come forward and contact Peel Regional Police, the Canadian Human Trafficking Hotline, or Crime Stoppers. This concludes my update into Project Pacific, and I'm happy to answer any questions at this time.
The victims, how are they doing it? Were there support services for them? Are they involved in support services?
Yes, the 13 victims in Project Pacific, as you can imagine, all had different vulnerabilities and that were being kind of taken advantage of and manipulated. As a result of that, our community partners recognize that different supports are needed, and on a case-by-case and individual basis, those supports are being provided as needed.
Sorry, could I just?
Yes.
The only thing I would add to that is, for me, one of the things that stands out for me about this investigation is the depth that our investigative team and our service providers put in towards supporting those victims. You know, traditionally, policing is often perceived about enforcement and exclusively enforcement. But the reality is the work that we do is about the survivors in this case. So it's one of the reasons why I'm so incredibly proud of the team and the work being done here, because equal to the investigative is the support for the survivors.
I know it's difficult to talk about and it's difficult to relay, but when you talk about manipulation, it's a pretty generic word, but how were these victimized? And I don't want to go into great details, but I'm sure it was traumatic.
I'm going to pass that question back to Detective Lang.
As I mentioned, the vulnerabilities of these victims did vary between each individual. A big factor is human trafficking is a financial gain crime, and people want to profit from it. And ultimately, they were exploiting, in some cases, the fact that a lot of these victims were not legally allowed to work in Canada for various reasons, and that was one of the reasons.
Do you know if the accused or...
Sorry to interrupt. Can we just use the microphones if possible, please?
Well, since I'm here, great work, by the way. It's important work that the community relies on the police to do this type of work. So your deputy touched on the fact that policing is now not just about enforcement. Can you generally speak about how you, as police officers, handle survivors of this type of offense?
Our Vice Unit is a member of Peel Human Trafficking Service Providers Committee. That's made up of about 47 different partner agencies, and ultimately that is to help assist with getting material out there to the community, liaising with different community groups, and making sure that we have a forward front in the education aspect of and understanding of what human trafficking is and the signs of human trafficking. And that's one method. As well, the Vice Unit here in Peel also provides education to our educational school system, as well as our post-secondary education.
And I guess, thank you for that. And I guess your message, again, the deputy alluded to this, to the community is if you suspect something, don't be afraid to call the police. No call is minor. If they're wrong, they're wrong. But you do encourage the community to give you a call anytime they suspect something like this, correct?
Yes, I think that's one of the biggest things we want to point out today in the importance of Project Pacific was that one member in our community recognized something that didn't seem right, maybe didn't know exactly what it was, but they saw signs that were similar to human trafficking and made that phone call to the Peel Regional Police Vice Unit. And as you can tell, a lengthy investigation commenced because of that one tip. And it just shows the impact that one community member can have to ultimately save victims and create survivors out there.
Because of the financial crimes, there's also vehicles involved and other assets involved, houses, condos. Also, there's businesses that turn a blind eye, I guess, when this happens. Are any of those institutions or assets being investigated or seized?
As you can imagine, there's a large amount of evidence that we've gathered throughout this investigation, and we continue to receive. There's a lot of financial records as well as electronic devices that still have to be analyzed. And ultimately, through that, we're looking to identify and hold accountable anyone that profited from this. And if that turns into a seizure of property or money, then that's where the investigation will take us.
Any known prior, or were the people that were arrested and known police before this investigation? Are they on bail or are they paroled?
No, none of the people charged in this investigation were on outstanding charges.
Thank you.
Well, we've been listening to Peel Police announcing details of a human trafficking operation dubbed Project Pacific, indicating several arrests, several charges.